when we have the inner child broken heart operating system, the inner child is oscillating between masculine mind and feminine heart. And so when we feel an emptiness in our body, or we feel a not good enough thought, what happens is the two energies that we created, the two components of the inner child identity, the mental and emotional state. Tony Robbins talks about the mental emotional state. The two components, mind and emotion, are the things that start to go off unconsciously from like an erratic heart signal that's shattered. And so what I have come to realize is that the habits that are necessary for me to get this six pack are almost they're such a small part of it, because it's just eating a certain amount of fat, eating a certain amount of carbs, eating a certain amount of protein, drinking the gallon of water, spacing out my meals every few hours, and having the forethought to prepare for meals so that I will always be fed. I will always be taken care of. And so everything that I have had in my head, and so many of us have in our head, about what diet and exercise is necessary for, is teeny tiny tip of the iceberg, because it's who we are in between those spaces. And it's who we are when we are projecting onto the food, onto the exercise, what we wanted from our caregivers. And so we're using diet and exercise to fulfill the emotional need of the inner child, because it's like, we're like, okay, well, if I do this certain thing, then I will have the physical result. Whatever it is that you are placing the power on the diet and exercise, that is the place that you are as the inner child, looking for that attention from the caregiver. So the more that I have looked at my mental, emotional states of the inner child, the less the outside stuff has mattered, to where it's very automated. When we switch into the crystalline lotus heart of the inner being, what that is the energetic operating system that's connecting us to, quote unquote, the other side, our spiritual side. The more I've cleared my relationship with myself, my relationship with my body, and my relationship with my place in the world, the easier everything else has become. And I am creating more contrast in the deep, deep, deep unconscious. And so when I did the first big chunk of soul retrieval, shadow work, all of that, that was the painful stuff, because I still had the inner child attachment to the experiences meaning something about me. And because all of this information is stored in the physical body, the molecules of emotion and the vibrations really do affect you. You feel it in a personal sense. Now, what I have discovered is that the higher I'm operating and getting into the crystalline lotus heart of the light body of the inner being, the level of contrast away from that high vibration, because I'm so far up here, when the vibration of the low unconscious activates, I am perceiving in so much love, peace, clarity, and wisdom that this thing that activates doesn't hurt. It doesn't take me out. I'm perceiving it. I'm not experiencing it. And that's a huge difference, because that extreme difference between the crystalline lotus heart of the light body inner being and the broken heart of the inner child, this is the state that shows up with me all the time, that allows me to have the thought, I would really like an ice cream sandwich right now. And I have this goal. I have plenty of calories. I know I can eat, 5 animal crackers to get this little sugar fix, because I know that I have this goal. And by the way, everybody, I know that on Saturday, I'm going to eat whatever I want when we go out for my mom's birthday. And I will be bloated for a few days, and that will be it of it. And then I'll be right back on it on Sunday. So it's like we can have the feeling come up that says, I want this thing, but we also will have the intelligence of, this is just a craving. This is just boredom. This is because it sounds really, really good. That's the state that you can get into when you're doing diet and exercise, to be able to look at your body and make conscious choices of what you're putting into it and what you're doing to it. Like the angst that you have when you look at what you don't like now, that angst that you have of what you don't like when you look at it, those are just the mental, emotional states of the inner child's relationship with the caregivers projected out into the third dimension, where it could be mirrored back because it's inside of you. And this whole experience in the third dimension of being human is to experience the self, but we can't experience that if we're still in the broken heart of the little child. So if we're operating out of the broken heart of the inner child, what's going to be projected? The reality of the inner child. So that's how things are going to change. So think about the things that you don't like about your body when you're looking at it, like, and not even the things of like cellulite or rolls or like, I call them skin tag titties now. My boobs are so saggy. Like, not the aesthetic thing, but the feeling that you have when you look at yourself and you don't like it. That is a projection of a mental, emotional state of the inner child broken heart. So that way we can train ourselves to listen to the voice of the inner being. And when we listen to the voice of the inner being, we're going to start to develop mental, emotional states that are of the inner being. They are going to be in contrast. So you're going to be aware out in the world when you're experiencing yourself of the contrast and of little signs and of, your angels, your guides, God, everyone showing you a mirror reflection of the inner being mental, emotional state. You're going to start to operate with that heart being the projector, okay, or the reflector.